This is my second video on the subject of repetitive strain injury, or RSI for short. Last time I spoke was just over 2 months ago. I'd been suffering from RSI for nearly 2 years, and I just had a massive relapse. Well, since then, it got quite a lot better over the course of about 2 or 3 weeks. But since then it's been very up and down. It hasn't really been the same as it was before the relapse. It's been quite unstable. Since the relapse, I've been seeing an osteopath at regular intervals, once a week. He does a similar kind of thing to what my original physiotherapist, who I think I talked about last time, did, i.e. massage of tense muscles. And I have had times when it's felt like it's been getting back to normal. In fact, just about 3 weeks ago I had a very good week at work, in terms of being able to do a pretty good amount of typing, and my symptoms were very mild. So it felt like things were going in the right direction. Then the following week, I felt my symptoms getting worse. Throughout the week, I was still able to do a lot of typing, but then it just got worse and worse. Discomfort persisted through the weekend at a higher level than it normally would. Normally it would settle down at the weekend to a greater extent. And then the week after that, it became so bad that at work I've just been sitting next to someone most of the time and, advising them verbally rather than working on my own computer. Obviously this is very worrying. I don't want to... I have felt at times like, this must surely be the end of my career, but I'm determined to keep going. In fact, it did seem to get better towards the end of last week, and this week, in the last few days, it seemed to be getting slightly better. In fact, yesterday I had another good day at work. Again, lots of typing, low symptoms. Maybe I did too much typing given that I hadn't been doing so much for the last 2 weeks. But today, in the morning, it wasn't too bad, but I could feel it getting slightly worse. Although I had noticed some tingling in my right foot, which isn't something I've had very often. I have had foot problems in the past, which again seem to be related to very tense muscles in the leg, and with the help of my physiotherapist I was able to deal with that quite quickly, certainly a lot more easily than the symptoms in the upper body have been. But today the tingling in my right foot became worse, and in the afternoon I got a quite rapid onset of very bad neck pain. Well, perhaps pain isn't the right word, but normally my neck does feel very tense, but today I've found that when I move it or try to kind of bend it in certain directions, like say what I'm doing now, just putting my neck forward, putting my head down, I feel a lot of tension, and as today progressed I felt a lot of tension in my neck, and this tension was accompanied by a bit of pain if I move my head, kind of trying to stretch my neck a bit, and in certain directions, if I tried to move my head in certain directions, it felt like it wouldn't really go. I was reluctant to move, which I haven't had so much. I haven't had that to the same extent that I've had today in a long time. I've also had tingling in my hands and numbness, a certain amount of numbness in my fingertips, which again is very disturbing. I recently saw a neurologist at the local hospital who is a sceptic of the term RSI. He says he believes it's a term that's overused. I talked to him about my understanding of the condition, which I've learnt through books and the internet and through speaking to fellow sufferers, namely that it's caused by nerves becoming trapped by tense muscles, and his response to this was, there's no evidence whatsoever for any of this, it's complete nonsense. I can empathise with his viewpoint to a certain extent, because there is not much decent research on RSI, but very little at all, in fact. Nevertheless, I mean, his when I asked him what he thought did cause RSI, he goes, "We don't know." Essentially, he has no idea. The reason I subscribe to the hypothesis that I do is based on what I've read. It makes sense, and I know that making sense isn't just because something makes sense doesn't mean it's true. But I found that not only does it make sense from a logical point of view, it tallied with my own experiences. So, for example, I've said today that my right foot has been tingling at times, and that's accompanied by muscle tension in my legs, which I can feel. It definitely feels different to normal, and if I try and stretch those muscles, the tingling seems to go away largely. If you're interested in learning more about RSI, the book I'd recommend is this one, which is It's Not Carpal Tunnel Syndrome by Supana Damani and Jack Bellis. It's a bit of a silly title, but it gets the message across that in America in particular, carpal tunnel is often used as a synonym for RSI, which isn't exactly correct. Often people are diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome when the problem isn't actually related to the carpal tunnel area itself. So for now, I've just got to see how things develop, if it gets any worse, or obviously I hope it will settle down again, but it's impossible to say, really. Annoyingly, I've also found that since my relapse in March, things like swimming and strengthening exercises have sometimes seemed to make my condition worse, which they didn't used to. I did go swimming on Tuesday and it seemed okay, but on many occasions it does feel like it's worsened things.